So we're getting close to a point where Christianity might be persecuted in the United States. And there's two roads you can go on this. You can be waiting for the cataclysmic buildup of the destruction and loss of civilization and be anxiously biting your nails and nervous. Or you can go headlong into the prosperity of the country, get entangled by worldly things, and then when the obvious question comes up, what do you want, faith or these things, you're going to have to choose, and most people will choose these things instead of faith. So both of those are wrong. We should not be biting our nails and waiting for the mark of the beast and looking for the rapture every 5 seconds and worrying and when is Jesus going to come back. And we also shouldn't be too relaxed where we're like, yeah, I'm pretty comfortable. I have a $80,000 a year job and a Toyota Camry 2023 and the backup cam and a dashboard iPad and you know I have an iPhone on my refrigerator and I can set my whole house to do all the chores I want with the Roomba and it's like both of those are wrong. Both of those are very wrong. You need to be ready and diligent but not scared, because remember, the tribulation is not meant to be something that's scaring for us. It's not meant to be something that we are anxiously waiting for. It's something that we are to just accept is going to happen because God has to bring into account all sin in all the world. So we should not be afraid. I listened to a pastor today talk about, it seems like he's very upset about the state of the world, and so is a lot of conservatives. You know, they have words for it like woke, which to define woke, as a lawyer told me to define it, who's my uncle and he's a very good man, but he told me to define woke. It's basically a movement that is androgynous, makes people very racist, commits acts of economic terrorism in order to basically coerce people into a viewpoint, and it basically shapes the world's thoughts so that way they lose their faith and they lose their religion and they really lose their connection to other people. It's a very narcissistic thing, and it's very much callous, and it believes in making money rather than building true relationships. Okay, that's very bad. On the flip side, there's a Christian version of it that's Christian nationalism. This is Trump is always right, even when he's suing journalists and getting people fired and going after people and canceling small artists and thinkers that don't align with his worldview and starting wars in Iran and Venezuela and possibly Cuba someday, and that he can do no wrong, and that we're a Christian nation and we just gotta have to just basically force Christianity on people and coerce them to believe because it's God, guns, glory. As one congresswoman said, is Jesus, guns, and babies. That's not good either. I think we walk the narrow road for a reason, and in Proverbs it says, lean neither to the left nor the right. We walk a narrow road for a reason. I gave you 2 examples of 2 extremes you can be in. So there's basically 4 examples I gave you of what not to be. Another example is being too Catholic or too Protestant or too Orthodox, where in this day and age we need to accept that the faith is robust and there's a lot of authentic expressions of it. We cannot be saying Catholics aren't saved or Protestants aren't saved or Orthodox aren't saved. Just as long as they believe in the Trinity and they believe in some form of baptism or communion and they confess the Lord as Jesus Christ, I just think there's no reason to say it's false. Because I see a lot of infighting among Christians about defining things like baptism and defining things like communion and whether it's transubstantiated, whether it's not. I mean, I personally believe in transubstantiation because I think Jesus is clear. We eat his flesh and we drink his blood, and I think it's basically a replacement for the temple sacrifice. But and I think baptism, it's perfectly legit to do it at 8 days old because baptism is the new bris or the new circumcision. It's the new covenant. So I don't think it's necessarily a problem to have infants baptized. Although if you want to get baptized again as an adult, go for it. I don't think you're going to go to hell for that either. I think you have to be very careful, though, when you're proselytizing other Christians, that you don't undermine the core faith with these superficial topics. We should be concerned with righteousness right now, and with the fruit of the Spirit and the weightier things of the faith, rather than the things that got people killed in the Protestant Reformation and the Counter-Reformation. We should be more concerned with the real important things of the faith. And the reason for that is because if we're not, we'll lose Christianity, and it will turn into something that is very evil. And as it is, I'm blushing right now thinking about what Christianity is turning into. There's two versions of it that are very bad. There's progressive Christianity, and then there's evangelical fundamental Christianity, where I think both of those, again, we're talking about walking the narrow road. Progressive Christianity, it tolerates the woman Jezebel. It allows this woke androgyny to be part of the church and corrupt it and basically be what the church preaches. And you have the Christian fundamentalist evangelical. It's like they're just like guns, Jesus, and babies. You know what I mean? It's like that. You know, we have to be sure that we're speaking the true faith, which, you know, abortion is a sin. It's classified as a sin. So is homosexuality, but so is Sabbath breaking. If you try to trust on your own works to save you, you're in violation of the Sabbath. So is working too much and not letting yourself rest or be at peace. There's a lot more to Christianity than simple abortion, gay marriage, and I don't even hear about divorce being talked about either. I think divorce is a much bigger problem than gay marriage, although I don't like gay marriage. I think divorce is the thing that catalyzes these questions of gay marriage, because, you know, if people can't stay together, it destroys the social bonds, and then suddenly people are seeking after wealth and fortune rather than commitment to their loved ones. And that's, I think, is a sin, I think that's the sin too, is people chasing after fortune instead of being committed to the people in their lives. You know, I know Jesus said, "Come follow me," but Peter still saw his wife. You know, he was following Jesus around, but, you know, they still visited his hometown, and he still saw her, and I'm sure he took her on all these different adventures. You know what I mean? Christ is not telling us to abandon our loved ones. He's telling us to abandon the world and its system, and to, in a sense, if we have to, become homeless. Because if we tolerate the woman Jezebel, if we tolerate the temple prostitution, we tolerate the gay marriage, we tolerate the androgyny, we tolerate the abortion, we tolerate the divorce, we essentially will be fine in the culture, but we're not living the way we should, because it's making Christianity weaker. Versus if we get cast out of our house because we're adamantly against it, because we know those things do not create happiness in the long run. They create more suffering for everyone. It's not because we're like saying, oh, we don't like these people. It's because we see it makes things weird, and it makes things worse, and it makes people more selfish and vain and hollow, and it makes them very egotistical in ways that don't suit the brethren or the community, and it makes them unable to do any kind of good, is what I see. And that's essentially why I think we as Christians have to walk with charity, which charity is what they say is called love in the scripture. I call it charity because I think that's a good word. You know, to be charitable to our fellow man. Love is a feeling, charity is an act. I think we have to have an act. Our love needs to be not like a hypocrite acting, but it has to be action, it has to be active. I think faith leads us to that active love that comforts people rather than scorns them. Not to say we can't use harsh words in certain areas, because, you know, you have to discipline, but you also have to be graceful, and like it says in the scripture, there's never a sin to be kind or gentle. It's never a sin. Fruit of the Spirit are never a sin. Even when disciplining, you can still be kind.